Hello, everyone, and welcome to the seventh episode of the SERPs of the Week podcast, where we discuss what goes into ranking high for a specific search term. I'm your host, Alex, and I'm the founder of Digital Olympus. And let me introduce you to today's podcast guest, Georgios Tachi. Oh my gosh, Chasiotis. I hope I pronounced it right.
Yeah, no worries. It's difficult to pronounce, anywhere else.
Tell me the right version.
So in Greek,
Mhm.
I'm Greek, right? So in Greek, you say Georgios Chasiotis, right? But but the
Chasiotis.
way it's written, the kind of the sort of right way to pronounce it in English would be Chasiotis,
Yeah,
right? Which
Chasiotis,
is,
right.
I've realized that Ka may be easier for most people,
Yeah, I
especially
think
like in
so.
the US. So I just ask them to say Casiotis, and
But it's right?
it's
Something.
but it's difficult, for many
Yeah,
people to
absolutely.
pronounce. So yeah,
But by the way, in the Netherlands, right, where I live now, is kind of they also have, which is,
okay,
yeah, which is kind of there is for instance a village, right, that I'm kind of always passing by when I go to a stable, and it's called Morhashtel.
okay.
So each language has something unique, and you kind of need to learn new kind of sound that you're absolutely not get used to.
Yeah, it sure does. Yes.
Okay, and before we actually start talking about the particular search term and so on, first of all, right, Yorgos, I want to introduce you. Yorgos is the managing director of Minuttia, an organic growth acceleration agency for B2B and SaaS companies. Yorgos started as an independent marketing consultant, but was soon pulled down the path of creating an agency. In his free time, he impacts wisdom, read rants on LinkedIn, or buries his head in psychology books to get down the why of human behavior. Okay, what was the most recent book you read then about psychology? What was,
Oh,
the most recent one?
I know this question was coming. So right now I'm reading Factfulness.
Okay.
I can't recall the name of the author. Not quite what
Not the best
I
book, right?
not what I mean. It's very interesting for sure, right?
Okay.
Because it has a lot of data, and for people who love data, like this book is I can understand how it's interesting to them. Me, I'm even though I am a data guy, when it comes to books, I appreciate storytelling more and kind of sharing wisdom through stories and
Yeah, I know what I'm
yeah,
talking about.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, now that I think about it,
I would prefer also to have it in this way, even though, sometimes you want to read about facts and data, but, storytelling is the best way actually to understand, why
it is.
it's happening
Yes.
actually in this way.
Yeah, it is. Like we are immediately, at least me. I mean, I can't speak for every person, but I'm drawn by by a story when I, even if it's just a small story, right? Just something, I'm immediately captured by it, and I want to read further. And when the story has some like learnings or some deeper meanings, let's say, it's even better. And I appreciate these books even more. I'm not reading as many books this year because my priorities were a bit different. For example, in 2022, I had the goal to read 24 books, and I did that. But this year, I guess, different priorities and not reading as many books. But yeah, right now I'm reading Factfulness, and yeah, who knows what the next one will be.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, since you're a Greek guy, right, and that is your motherland, right, I have a question to you about Musaka,
Oh yeah.
which is one of the most traditional dishes of your country, right? By the way, what is Musaka, right? So first of all, that is the question to you.
So yeah, Musaka is a traditional Greek dish, and my mom cooks, I think, the best Musaka in the world. and I'm not saying this because it's my mom. I mean, she's like just amazing when it comes to Musaka and so many other things, of course. But anyway,
now we all want to actually come, to your house, try your mom's
yeah,
Musaka.
yeah. I don't know, when next time we meet at a conference or something, I can bring some Musaka. But the thing is that yeah, it's a traditional dish. It's a bit heavy because it has a lot of
Potatoes, eggplants,
potatoes,
right?
like bechamel,
Yeah.
and then like oil and meat, minced meat, and so on and so forth, and cheese, of course, on top.
Yeah, on
to
the
make
top.
this like crunchy
Yeah, and
thing at the
beautiful
top.
color, right?
Yeah, so it's a bit heavy, but I don't know, it's delicious.
No, I know. When I was, living in Cyprus, I was also, because they also kind of treated their traditional dish for sure, just
Yeah.
because, the same language, the same roots. Okay, and now the question is, right, circling back to Musaka, right? So one of these countries doesn't consider Musaka as their traditional dish, right? So which one?
I haven't been to Lebanon, so I don't know what's the kitchen like there. I don't know, I would say Lebanon.
Well, I think, based on Google recommendations, at least, right? Because I can't really do a fact check, right? It's actually Serbia. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's actually Serbia because but all those countries, right? Just kind of a small remark, they all have their own version of Musaka, right?
Okay.
So they're kind of a little bit different just because for Greek people, it's kind of, the sauce is bechamel. For some other countries, it might be something else. For instance, for Egypt, it's a little bit not the same, but whatever, right?
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Types of moussaka is quite similar to types of marketing that we are going to discuss. They are all quite the same, but a little bit different, right? And that is actually our today's search term. Okay, to start the conversation, right? I want to ask you, Yorgos, which type of marketing do you think, right? Do you believe is the most effective nowadays?
Most effective. I would say that even though you've probably heard of something like that, a version of that, what I'm about to say, like somewhere on LinkedIn, or you read about it, or watched the video. I think that the type of marketing that's the most effective is like the marketing that you can tell that this is actually marketing, right? And
but how can you differentiate, the let's say like the fake marketing from the real marketing?
I think that it depends on many different things, like the industry you're in. For example, for an agency like us, marketing ourselves is different, and like there may be different types of marketing that work for us as opposed to a B2B SaaS company, as opposed to a like direct to consumer company, as opposed to whatever other like types of companies.
More like traditional businesses, let's say like restaurants, for instance.
Yeah,
right?
because there are companies, and for them, events, for example, may be one of the best drivers of growth and revenue and pipeline and so on. But for digital companies, it may be something else, like paid social, right? Or paid search, or affiliate marketing, or whatever. I think that at the end of the day, and I also wrote a post around that for specifically for email marketing, which is
I saw it actually. I agree with your perspective. Just you guys, right, to give you some context, George, and actually you can go right to Yorgos LinkedIn and check it out. Wrote a post about, a lot of people nowadays are complaining about email marketing because it's no longer bringing the same results, right? But it's only kind of, true for those, right, that can't really leverage, right, this channel by some reasons.
Yeah, the thing is that you see some signals. For example, for email marketing, that would be MailChimp sold for a double digit, like in billions, right? To Intuit, and then you see Klaviyo filing for like to go public last month, and also you see some stats from a website like Statista that says that the number of email users is growing year after year. And that leads you to the assumption that, you know what, email marketing is far from dead, right?
But no, I think it's on the rise in some ways, just because a lot of traditional kind of channels like direct mail, for instance, right? Yeah. It's still actually quite used by some companies, but they're also kind of considering the switch on, or will do the switch, right? Sooner or later.
The thing is that what we do very often is that we, human beings, we love to, you know, project. And the fact, for example, that I feel somehow today means that, like, in my view, every other person is feeling somehow, you know, in the same way, right? And I just used...
And we love do generalization, right? Not on the projection.
Yeah, that's
it's kind
right.
of, you know, on kind of, you know, basically don't really specify things.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, this can apply to email marketing and any other type of marketing. If something doesn't work for you, you mentioned direct mail, and, you know, I would say, for example, cold outreach is one of these cases. The fact that it doesn't work for me, it doesn't mean that it doesn't work for, like, other companies or individuals, right? And I'm sure that there are other companies that practice cold outreach and it works for them, right? So I think that we should leave aside, you know, all these notions and try not to project as much, and see, you know, if something works for you, that's fine. If it doesn't mean that it doesn't work for anyone else, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what the post was all about. And the same, I mean, going back to your question, I think the same applies regarding types of marketing, right? There's not one, like, you know, single best type of marketing. I think it depends on many different aspects, and as a marketer, it's your job to find what the best type for you is and leverage it as much as you can.
Yeah, but what do you think about LA marketing, right? L marketing. Do we expect to see it shortly, you know, being listed among the rest of the more traditional, right?
Sorry, is that
artificial? Yeah, that is correct.
I don't know if this is. I mean, I don't know if this will be a type of marketing per se. I think that I see AI as a tool and as a vehicle to, like, better productivity and doing more things done. It can also work as a distraction. I think that right now many of us are in the face of distraction just because we are kind of in the early stages of the adoption curve. So we just need to separate the, you know, the signal from the noise and find the best use cases for AI. I don't know if there will be, once again, like a new type of marketing based on AI. I see AI as a tool primarily, and as a vehicle to be more productive, do more things, and even be more creative in some cases, right?
Yeah, and I think it's kind of actually a great tool and basically maybe a great way of educating yourself around the topics that you are not quite familiar with. Even though sometimes the answers might be not so correct. So fact checking is also, you know, should be a part of the process, just because, you know, there are, you know, we all read a lot of posts when basically I was kind of telling this or that, which is, you know, was just kind of found somewhere on the web, or even kind of, you know, basically, you know, kind of the machine just kind of brainstormed this. So, you know, one more time, it's not necessarily the one and only source of data. And you have to actually apply some critical thinking, right, to all the data that you kind of get, because one more time, it's just machine, right? And it has also some limitations in terms of data interpretation, right? And representation most probably as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, sounds great. I just wanna most probably let's open right the particular search engine result. So I suggest opening Ahrefs, right, to take a look at the current level of competition by the search term types of marketing. By the way, Jorgis, may I ask you why you made a decision to go with this search term, right?
So
what
the
was
decision.
your reasons? What
So
were
the
your reasons?
yeah. So the decision was the reason why I chose this term over any other term was it's a great term to show it for the most part it illustrates the current state of things when it comes to how the search results look like in many cases, right? And I mean, how the SERPs look like right now in many cases is that we have two main characteristics. The first is search intent alignment, right? Especially in something like when you're searching for something like types of marketing, you see on the SERPs, and you also understand, it's easy to understand that people are most likely interested in seeing a list with like different types of marketing, right? So we have a very strong alignment when it comes to the search intent, the searcher's intent, like what people have in mind, right? And at the same time, for the most part, we have the second characteristic of the current state of SERPs, which is a very high level of information symmetry, right? Information symmetry is basically a concept that describes a situation where in a transaction, every party has pretty much the same amount of information, right? And this is what happens right now.
So we're kind of mirroring, each other in some ways.
Yeah. And the thing is that from an information standpoint, there is little to no, competitive advantage by like almost any result that you see right now on the SERPs. No disrespect to any of these brands, right? Many of them are amazing brands, most of them, right?
Yeah.
They are very big brands. But this describes, I think, and paints a very clear picture as to how the SERP looks like for this, term, and for many other terms. Once again, search intent alignment, yes, and information symmetry, right? I think that this belongs to now, the present, but in the future, we will have, as per, like, of course, my understanding of things, and with all the recent changes that Google announced on May 10th in their, I/O event, we will have search intent alignment, yes. So most of the search results will try to satisfy the same search intent when the intent is not fractured, right? And when it's somehow clear what people are looking for.
Yeah, for sure.
But we will start seeing more and more informational symmetry, meaning that some of the parties involved, in this case, the parties are search results, right? Some of the parties involved will have a competitive advantage over other parties because they will have significantly more information on any given topic that they have visibility for and that they can speak about. So in this case, and I think that this goes back to the concept of information gain, which is like in many cases not well understood by search.
But may I ask, may I interrupt you and just circle back a little bit, just because I just wanted to also to clarify for myself and most probably for listeners, what do you mean by basically, when it comes to a competitive advantage, right? And it comes to having a more in-depth content. If we kind of circle back to the current, right, search engine results, types of marketing, does it mean that it should be a longer post that featuring more types of marketing, or we are talking about giving, I don't know, better explanation, or we are giving better examples?
That's a very good question. I would say that, of course, as a marketer, my standard answer is it depends, right? But in this example, I would say that let's think of it like that. I mean, a very simplistic way of approaching this would be, okay, like the top result has 41, right? And we have one more with 43, right?
Yeah.
Let's create something that's significantly higher than that, right? That would be a very simplistic way of approaching that. But this is not what I'm talking about, and this is not what I think, belongs to the future of search.
Yeah, absolutely.
An example here would be, how could we, as a search result and as a brand, as an extension behind the search result, as a website, could have a competitive advantage over all these other search results? We could say that, you know what, we did a survey and we surveyed, 552 marketers. These are the, it could be 7, 6, 8, it doesn't matter, right? Higher doesn't necessarily mean that we have a competitive advantage and we cause information asymmetry on this SERP, right? While having a satisfying search intent, because still we would create a list post because this is what people are interested in. But imagine if we had data to support this kind of competitive advantage, right? And we created, sorry about that.
No worries.
I don't know what this is. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Anyway,
yeah, no worries at all.
So imagine if we had a piece of content that, the title read something like, we surveyed 552 search marketers. Here are the X most prominent or most profitable types of marketing in 2023, right? I don't know about you, but I would click on that result over any other, right? Because if you think about it, and if you go back to the deeper motives of why someone is searching for something like types of marketing, this person, we can assume this is all, based on assumptions, but we can assume that this person wants to know what the types of marketing are.
Yeah, absolutely.
But most likely, and there is a chance that one of their motives is that, yes, I want to know what types of marketing exist out there, but at the same time, I want to see what are the ones that are most effective right now. So if you think about that, and if this is indeed the case, then it would make sense for us to, present a different alternative to what's already out there, and cause
absolutely.
Information asymmetry while maintaining search intent alignment.
I think also, other way around to tackle this topic might be kind of an idea, right? Is basically allowing, and that is actually the future, I think, of everything in terms of, basically making the content personalization in the way that I can actually personalize the content based on my needs. So instead of just kind of giving the list of, right, types of marketing that are not relevant to my situation, I come to this page, I tell who I am. Let's say I'm in a restaurant in this location, blah, 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 putting my budget. And then, right, this kind of content gives me away the answer. It's kind of telling me, okay, the best option for you based on your requirements, based on, on your niche and, your situation will be the following, right?
That would be another way to approach it. And of course, all the things we say, just a disclaimer, I guess we should have said this in the beginning, is that all the things we share is based on what we see right now and what the search experience is right now. Because after Google's SGE, Search Generative Experience, comes out of beta and we see the public version of it and people get access to it, things will be, I don't know, significantly different, right?
What kind of changes do you expect to see, just briefly?
So one of the changes is this: we will see more search intent alignment and more informational symmetry. And informational symmetry in this case is important because, as per our understanding so far of how the AI answered or AI-powered snapshot overview, you can call it however you like, is created, is that it essentially curates different
curates.
different perspectives from the internet, from the open web, through a process that's called corroboration, and constructs the AI answer, right? And so for you moving forward to be considered as a resource that, you know what, could help me construct this AI answer, not only you have to have, like, you know, let's think about information gain for a minute. People, when they think about information gain, is, okay, what sections my competitors have? These 9. Okay, I will add a 10th one, and you know, call it a day. This is information gain. This is not what this is all about, right? You have to go there with significantly better content and demonstrate, of course, expertise, in many cases first-hand experience, and something that, you know, Google repeats over and over again, the concept of perspectives, right? And this is something that we also believe belongs to the future. So we have information gain for sure. Then we have topical authority, which will play an even more prominent role. And by the way, a couple of weeks ago, Google released published an article referring, actually giving a name to topical authority. They call it topic authority on news side, for news sites, which, of course, who tells you that, you know, they don't use the same kind of approach for any other website, right? So topical authority for sure. And we did a great webinar with ClearScope a while back on topical authority. And then, of course, search perspectives, which will be, as I see it, kind of a new way of approaching search intent, and ensuring that as a website, not only I add significantly more, you know, to the information table, let's say, but I also present a perspective that could be aligned with what people have in mind in you know, the stage of the journey they are at. So, for example, if we take the term how to code, right?
Yeah.
Or learn how to code. If you think about it, someone who is searching for something like learn how to code, yes, they might want to see a list of steps, you know, on how to learn how to code. And that would be the playbook for us as, you know, search marketers, let's say, broadly defined right now. But that will not be enough moving forward. And this is where search perspectives come into play. If you search for something like how to code or learn how to code in YouTube, you will see that 2 out of the 5 or 6 top search results, depending, of course, on your location preferences, you know, browsing history and so on, have a title that is close to, you know, as close to what I'm about to say as possible. The mistakes I avoid, you know, if I had to learn how to code over again, right? So on YouTube, you can see search perspectives, right? We don't see them as often on search, but we believe that this is about to change. And so not only you will see a piece of content that kind of shares the steps that you should take a course, and then you should, I don't know, find a personal, like, instructor, whatever, but also we will start seeing these different perspectives that resonate with people based on, like, what the deeper motives that they have are. And as I said in this example, that would be, you know what, you want to learn how to code. Here's how I would do it. And I'm a developer, by the way. Here's how to do it. And here, you know, are the mistakes I made during the process and that I would like you to avoid, right? So these 3 things, information gain, topical authority, and search perspectives, we believe are, you know, belong in the future of search.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I want to also circle back to one point that you've briefly mentioned about customer journey, right? And take a look at our current search engine result, right? And I just wonder, right, because there are very different, I would say we only see, right, services, cloud solutions, right, obviously here. But all of them, they are representing very different, you know, businesses, I would say, right? And when it comes to a customer journey, I think, for instance, like if you look at MailChimp, right? Most probably they are the closest ones when it comes to, you know, when it comes to, let's say, like using this content piece, right, in order to sell their services. But there are a few other, kind of tools, like for instance, the Scara, which is a kind of a tool for managing your expenses. Even more, it's a ERP tool, right? So do you think, right, what we see is kind of aligning with the customer journey of their potential, let's say like clients, or you see, let's say like some, I would say, not really mistakes. We're not going to call this mistakes, but I would say some interesting cases that, we can discuss, I would say.
First of all, I don't know, I may be wrong, but I don't see like as much commercial value on a term like these types of marketing, right? So I suppose that the reason why these great brands created a piece of content around like this topic is twofold. I would expect them to create this piece of content because of, they want to get eyeballs on the piece of content and like raise brand awareness and so on. And the second would be, I don't know, I guess this is something you can confirm, or I would like to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, okay,
sure. It could help in terms of passive link acquisition, because I assume that people are searching for types of marketing, and
yeah, absolutely,
some of them may want to link
it's
back
a very
to.
generic one, but just because people are lazy on a general note, no one is going to kind of try to find something extremely meaningful. They're going to put types of marketing, grab the first result, right?
Yeah.
And for sure, HubSpot, or it depends on the location, right? If you're maybe based in a different country and you're looking, for English, right, results, then you're going to see maybe not HubSpot, but the second or third result, whatever. But yeah, for sure, that is also actually a way. And since it has a quite good search volume, right, it works quite well. But I wonder, right, if, obviously, right, it's more like an informational search term, which is quite far away from any commercial intent, right? So it's like more for brand awareness, for putting your brand maybe in front of people that are trying to educate themselves on a particular topic. But Jorgis, do you see anything interesting in this particular SERP? So, I mean, any pages, right, that kind of ranking extremely well, but and they're kind of capable maybe of outranking other pages with not having so much competitive advantage, let's say.
I don't know, I guess the only interesting result here, because we also have to consider like the brand play, right? Most of these brands are very well recognized. The only one is result number 9 from demand jump.
Yeah.
And I think that this is interesting. If what Ahrefs says there regarding the word count is correct, they have 1,100 words, and their DR is significantly lower than any other result in this SERP, except for the Scara. I don't know if I pronounced it correctly. And at the same time, the number of domains is significantly lower. So I would say that this is the only kind of outlier. I don't know how to call it, but
yeah, and you can see that the content is quite short and weak, being honest, right?
That's right.
That's right. It's nothing, basically.
That's right. Yeah. To be honest, I can't understand. No disrespect to like demand jump. I'm sure they're trying really hard there, but yeah, it's a surprise how they made it to the SERP, and
yeah, it's quite interesting. Well, by the way, actually, it's even more interesting that they're kind of not really. Most probably I need to share my screen one more time, but I think it's just most probably not really. They are not really ranking consistently, as you can see. So they are kind of being here for some time. Then you see, right? So there is no obvious, and by the way, the recent most probably Google update, by some reason, gave them some priority, right? But in my opinion, it's not going to last, for long, just because the page itself is very weak. And I think in this particular scenario, brand authority, right, plays a significant role. For sure, right, their overall relevancy, right, to the particular search term. And then, I would say on-page SEO, and then on the number of links per individual page, right, per each page. That is my guess. What do you think, Jorgis? Do you think it's kind of maybe on-page SEO starts everything here, or what will be your guess? Because it's always a guessing game, right? We don't really know for sure.
It is. I mean, things are clear for the most part. I mean, if you take a look at most of these results, you can see brands like Ahrefs, like Wix, like Shopify, and HubSpot, and so on. So I think that it's and most of these websites have some connection in one way or another to marketing, right? So, and they have a lot of content, especially HubSpot. They have a lot of content around marketing, and one of their tools is or suite of tools is a marketing tool, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, they do have.
So I see a relevancy there. I don't know what Demand Job do, and I don't know what the Scera do. So I can speak about those.
Scera is in ERP tool. So basically, it's more related to accounting rather than marketing, which is interesting actually as well. Because sometimes you think, okay, this should be based on, on topical authority, right? But then you look at some, one more time, I guess there are, some situations when we have exceptions, right? So one more time, because we always want to do some, projection and generalization, right? Circling back. And whenever we look at, at particular search engine results, it's way easier to say, right, that this, what we see is kind of based on this. But I started to think over, that, first of all, Google is not perfect, right? And sometimes it's just exceptions because we don't really know everything, right?
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think anyone believes, hopefully not, that, Google gets it right every time. I mean, you obviously see results where, some things can strike you as odd, and that this shouldn't be, based on what I see here and what I know, this shouldn't be like this. But I think that, and recently they announced an upcoming update on helpful content and how they kind of evaluate content on the SERPs. I think that this will be also connected somehow to the new search generative experience that they announced, and that they launched the beta version of the tool and of the search engine. But I think that things will drastically change moving forward. It's, I don't know who wrote this, but it's this phrase that I read somewhere, that the change happens gradually and then suddenly, right?
Yeah.
I think that we've been warned for a while that, like, you can't write content and just stuff it with keywords, or write about content that you don't have first experience with, or you don't have expertise, or you're not an identified entity who can talk about this topic, and so on and so forth. And there has been some gradual changes, right? But nothing major, at least as of now. I think that this is kind of a wake-up call for all of us, that along with, of course, Ernest Hemingway, that's right. So I think that this has to work as a wake-up call for all people who work in the search industry, and content creators for sure, websites, brands, publishers, that the game is slowly changing until it it will suddenly,
until a sudden end, I would say, at some point, right?
Suddenly change. and we just have to adapt, right? So
Absolutely.
we just have to adapt. And does that mean that results like this will look the same if we have the same discussion in like, and check the same term in 1 year from today? Who knows?
Who knows, right?
Yeah, I think that, as I mentioned, going back to what I said earlier, things will change, and like information gain, topical authority, and search perspectives will play a more prominent play, let's say, to how search results are not ranked, but because we are getting into a different state now where it's not just rankings. It's
I think it's kind of that the most important thing that we have to and at some point it's kind of this journey has started to actually to be a part, I would say, or this kind of reality has started to be a part of our journey quite a long time ago, just because, for instance, all those featured snippets, right? That is actually a huge shift from that the traditional way we kind of look at search engine results, where we kind of hold right a particular position and so on. And when we whenever we say, okay, if I get at the top 3 results, let's say, then I could expect this number of visitors or something like that. But with all those changes, right, with how we and with how Google actually structured the search engine results, it's no longer the same. Actually, it's no longer about particular positions and rankings.
I agree with you. It's not search as much as it's discovery, let's say. But we also have to think that people will always value the opinion and perspective and stories and like all the things that we said
and
earlier.
Expertise, right? So if you can
expertise
bring
of other people
to the table all those things, right, including right a well-developed page, right, with quite easy to navigate design, UX, and so on, then basically that is it.
That's right. And like maybe in my example earlier, I maybe took it a bit to the extremes. You don't have to like run a survey to and survey like 552 marketers to find out what the best like types of marketing are. You can say that, what, I will create a piece of content in collaboration with a veteran marketer.
Absolutely.
Right? And you can say that, what, we will create a list, we will interview this person, and we will create this list, and also highlight that in the title and so on, that like the top, I don't know, 6 types of marketing
based on
a veteran with like 20 plus years of experience, right?
Yeah, so absolutely.
Imagine that and think about you and what result you would choose, even if there is like a chat where you can ask the question and get an answer. If you scroll down a bit and like you see this search result, which I would assume that this search result would also help Google, construct the AI answer through the process of corroboration. But if you see the search result, you will click there because you would like to see
it backed up with something real, right? Instead of just a random copyright or whatever it is. It doesn't matter, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think to sum this up, right, the future is in changing your perspective, right? Instead of just trying to produce as many content as you could, right, which is was always kind of the thing. You have to shift your focus on actually collaborating, right, and and on looking for ways to produce something more meaningful, right, in terms of not only like whenever we talk about quality content, right, it's more about expertise, right? So in my understanding.
Yeah, and I don't want people to get this wrong. What we're saying here today is that you have to do it, and you can do that in several cases, but it's not to say that every piece of content has to be like original content. You surveyed people, you shared a story or anything like that. That's not what we are saying, right? But in many cases, this is how the game, once again, as per my like understanding, and this is all just pure speculation, right? But this is how I think the game will be played.
Yeah.
In many cases, for many search terms.
Yeah, for competitive especially.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Georgios, for joining me today. It was a pure pleasure chatting with you, and thank you very much for sharing so many insights, right? Including the way, right, the new search engine results will be looking like, and what we can expect, and how we can prepare for this. Thank you very much one more time for joining us. It was a pleasure hosting you today.
Thank you very much, Alex, and to anyone who watched this video.
Thank you.